Hello folks, Y Guy here again, and before I even give you the title and get started, it's been a while since I've done a video, and the reason for it is I'm trying to do a little more research, not necessarily on a subject matter, but on a presentation. I was encouraged by my friend Jim, hello Jim, to look into how Socrates delivered himself, and I don't say I have it down, but I'm trying. So this video is going to have more questions rather than blatant statements. Of course, I'm going to make some statements because I'm the Y Guy. But I'm going to try to answer some questions by using questions and not be quite as abrasive as some claim that my videos are. So bear with me here. This is a learning experience for me as well. This video is called The Y Guy Can't Create. A better way to possibly make a better title, I should say, would be The Y Guy Can't Create Something Out of Nothing. But that was a little too long. So let me first off some people say, well, you're a songwriter, Y Guy, so you've created a song. Well, yes, God has given gifts and given to various artists, different calibers, a way to create something, but it's not out of nothing. Okay, it's out of life experiences. It's not out of nothing. So here's the question. My first question is, can mankind create something from nothing? Okay, for those who believe in the devil, can the devil create something out of nothing? Or only use what already exists? Okay. Does any created thing or created being possess the ability to create something that doesn't exist or never has existed? Out of the thin air, so to speak, suddenly just create something out of the power of their free will. Can any created being or thing do that, is the question. Now, I'm going to veer off of Socrates for a moment and make a statement just from my observations. Some claim that's exactly what took place in the Garden of Eden. Okay, now let me clarify this way. Here's the question. Who created sin? And why? What is the purpose for sin? Sin has a purpose. I got to assume sin has a purpose, or it would never have been created or allowed. All right? Now, I've heard it said this way, that man was tempted in the garden so he could choose to love God, choose to obey God, choose not to sin. Now, didn't God command Adam to name all the animals? It's just one of many examples. Didn't God command Adam to name all the animals long before the garden experience? And Adam chose to obey? Did Adam have a love for God long before this garden experience? And as far as choosing sin, how did they, in that garden, how did that couple choose something that was non-existent in the garden up to that point in time? You see, I hope I'm trying not to make blatant, bold statements here, so bear with me, all right? Now, eons before Adam was created, okay, sin was found, and that's a key word. Sin was found in Lucifer. It didn't say that that Lucifer created it himself. So long before the world. Anyway, you get the point, right? So here's the question that's important, okay, as far as in context to this video, is who created the deceiver? Who created the garden? Who created the tree? Who created the knowledge of good and evil? Who created the opportunity there in the garden? Who is responsible ultimately? Who is responsible for the existence of sin? I'm going to have to answer that one. I just can't leave that one hanging. The very one, capital O, the very one who's responsible for sin, became sin himself. And he was nailed to a different tree at a different point in time. Now, he took upon himself the full responsibility and all the penalty, all the ramifications for the very existence of sin. So no one can boast. I've heard it said, but you've got to believe. You just boasted. Now let me clarify before you turn this video off. Yes, eventually, believing is imperative. However, if you believe believing does the work, you just boasted. Okay, does believing come by faith, which is a gift from God, so we can't boast or take the credit for believing because it's a gift? To conclude this video, it is my humble opinion, okay, that sin exists and was created for a purpose. As my friend Mark J., I won't say your last name, Mark. Hello, Mark, if you view this video. As he would say, nothing goes to waste with God. That was golden nuggets for my wife and I when he said that. Well, some will say that sin separates us from God, even though there's no scripture evidence that states that. On the contrary, it states that nothing can separate us from God's love. So please allow me to simplify a popular, at least from my paradigm, got something in my eye here, at least from my paradigm, from, not paradigm necessarily, but how I view a simple, a popular belief system. Okay, I'm trying to find the word and I can't think of it right now. But here goes. God created something. In this context, sin. As a means, or as a tool to separate his children. This is going to sound cold and callous for a second, but bear with me. As a tool to separate his children, his creation, from him for all eternity. Even though he took full responsibility on himself at Calvary? Is it possible that sin was not created for the purpose to separate us from God, but instead for the purpose of contrast? Is that possible? A contrast to show mankind who the mark is. Mark meaning, in the Greek, hitting the bullseye. The bullseye of the target. And I'm going to, is it possible that Christ is the target? And the bullseye is God's love? In the Greek, sin simply means missing the mark. That's what it means. Okay? In context, missing the Christ, maybe? How can someone know good if they've never experienced bad? I conclude that sin is the exact opposite of Christ. A very beautiful contrast. And my very last question to conclude this video is it possible that sin is nothing more, okay, than God's tool for contrast purposes, rather than something that can separate us from his love? I want to thank you for viewing, and just consider this video. Thank you so much.